So, what does Antarctica really represent after all? An icy barrier surrounding a flat Earth to prevent people from venturing beyond this farm? Or is it that the Masons aren't hiding anything from us and the Earth is indeed a spherical shape, with Antarctica being a continent at the southern pole? Either way, Antarctica is closely guarded and no ship or plane can approach it without permission. I've found several interesting materials about Antarctica and today I'll share them with you. But first, let me comment on some statements made by viewers of my channel. In the previous part of the video on the topic of Antarctica, one of the most common comments was something like,
"Anyone can go to Antarctica. Nobody prohibits it. There are even tours available."
And so on in that vein. Every third person was leaving a link to a tour agency that actually organizes these tours. The prices are listed there. By the way, the prices are comparable to the cost of an apartment. Brief descriptions of entertainment programs are also provided, and it's purely entertainment. The most striking impressions are taking photos with penguins, observing leopard seals, and if lucky, seeing whales. Almost identical comments were flooding in. Later, it seems people gradually started to realize that not everything that glitters is gold. The cost of such a tour invariably includes permission from the UN to visit Antarctica. Moreover, only in designated areas, which means without permission, you can't even set foot there. And there's no real benefit from such a visit. Unrestricted visits, and especially any research or expeditions, are strictly prohibited. Those who can conduct research or engage in any unknown activities, there are either special service employees or strictly under their control. Now there is another version. Now the comments sound something like this.
"It's all about taking care of people. It's very cold and dangerous there. Someone will go there and freeze to death."
So, according to these people, this person cares about human lives. Maybe this one cares, or maybe this one. Don't make me laugh. The world is ruled by a bunch of degenerates who start wars, commit genocide. Killing 1 million people means nothing to them. They must have some kind of parasites in their brains. If they say that someone from the ruling circles cares about our safety, so a walk through the winter forest at a temperature of -40 degrees is quite possible. People dive into the ice hole at a temperature of -50. Every winter dozens of people disappear without a trace in Alaska, most of them freeze to death. The police and rescue services do not even organize searches for the missing in winter. They say you need to wait for spring when the snow begins to melt, then maybe we'll find them. Alaska, northern Canada, you can easily get to Greenland without any tours. Nobody needs you there. No one cares if you freeze to death. And if you don't freeze, they will happily feed you GMOs, expose you to 5 microwave radiation. In the US, people are even forced to eat palm oil. The government has introduced such taxes that it is simply unprofitable to produce high-quality food. And you will also have to pay off a bank loan with crazy interest rates. Millions of people are being destroyed. But it is forbidden to go to Antarctica to study our so-called planet, because they take care of us so that we don't freeze to death. And there are people who sincerely believe in it. So, the statement that the world elite cares about people so that they do not die from cold and hunger in Antarctica is an extreme degree of absurdity. People who make such statements should not write comments on YouTube, but go check not only for the presence of parasites in their brain, but for the presence of the brain. This is what I wanted to say about commentators who think they are so smart, but actually don't see beyond their nose. But now let's move directly to the interesting materials I found. Encyclopedia Britannica. Here a person is showing the encyclopedia, and you just take a look at what's written there. Of course, you won't find this in the new edition of the encyclopedia. This version was published only until 1958, and in 1959 the International Antarctic Treaty was adopted. The government simply removed this from the encyclopedia.
We're going to flip to the Antarctica, and this is from 1958, as you can see. Now, we're going to flip to the Antarctica and see what the Encyclopedia Britannica from 1958, before the Antarctic Treaty, says is there. Now, you won't find this in the new encyclopedias because the government's banned them. But what I want you to notice right here is, notice how it says the flights proved inland areas to be featureless in character, with a dome 13,000 feet high at about latitude 80 degrees south, longitude 90 degrees east. Take a really close look at that. Now I'm going to zoom it in for you.
Just as it might have sounded strange 2 years ago, there was a video on YouTube by an author named Citizen for 104. I remember watching it, but the channel's author quickly deleted it. I don't know for sure whether it was either the author personally or YouTube that blocked the video, but the fact is that this video is nowhere to be found now. But it's good that there are intelligent people in the world who managed to save this video on their devices. And so, recently, a subscriber sent me this video after 2 years. Let's see what will happen when I upload this video. So, an Antarctic explorer who lives at the edge of the Earth not only saw everything with his own eyes, but also managed to secretly film the dome supports and other strange things. His video will follow, but first I will voice his story. I was part of the 47th closed Antarctic expedition in 2002. When I was included in a research group that was heading inland, the driver of their car got sick, and I replaced him. Before starting the trip, the head of the expedition instructed me and forced me to sign a non-disclosure agreement. He told me to forget everything I was taught in school, that the Earth is a sphere. It is flat as your frying pan, and we are on the edge of it. Everything is covered with a dome. Don't tell anyone about what you'll see there in the ice. We were also prohibited from taking photos or making videos there. We drove south for 6 days until we reached a wide river with unfrozen water. The river was about 2 kilometers wide, and the water was warm, emitting thick steam. A real miracle. Ice and snow are all around, and the river is warm. The head of the group forbade touching the water, saying that there was radiation. But what was on the other side of the river gave me goosebumps. There was a massive metal support about 2 kilometers high. The leader said that such supports are installed around the Earth every 53 kilometers. Supporting the dome. What dome? I asked. Watch carefully, he said. Indeed, if you look closely, you can see that the sky looks like glass or blue plastic. And from time to time, fireballs flew by, rapidly soaring up the surface of the dome. I pretended to go to the toilet and slid behind an ice floe. I started shooting on an old hidden mobile phone. However, the phone was old and the camera was bad. This is what I managed to capture. Now skeptics probably can't wait to print comments.
Oh, it's a fake, an old phone, a bad camera. But there is one catch.
I would have thought the same thing if I hadn't stumbled across the following video. This video was shot from the same angle, from the same river, but not on an old phone and not in 2002. It was in 2017, and the quality is excellent. Two videos from different sources. Of course, they could all fantasize, but the most curious thing is that they all fantasize the same way. Doesn't that seem strange to you? But if you think that's all for today, then no. There is something else interesting. A former UN employee shared an incredible story from his life from 2013 to 2017. I worked in a closed group of the UN committee dealing with issues related to the use of Antarctic territories for research purposes with states that have signed the Antarctic Treaty, recognize it as a neutral territory, and have research stations on its territory. I was an ordinary assistant, but I had access to work with classified documents. Over these years, a multitude of intriguing documents has passed through me, the content of which I want to share with you. Don't think of me as some secret agent or spy who stole classified documents. I'm far from those espionage games. I've simply come across information that has been kept hidden from us for many decades. I consider it my duty to bring this truth to the public. Of course, I had previously committed to not disclose the information I worked with, but at present, I no longer work for the UN or any other governmental organization. I've left the USA and even changed my citizenship. Therefore, I believe that I am no longer bound by the commitments, and I cannot remain silent when blatant lies are being told to people. You have the right not to believe me, and that's your prerogative. After all, they might be presenting you with copied or stolen documents. I reiterate, I am not a criminal who steals secret documentation. I'm merely going to tell you about what I learned while working with classified UN documents concerning Antarctica during my years of service in this international structure. I must also emphasize that the documentation I worked with or that passed through me was extensive. In most cases, there was nothing particularly strange or interesting. It was the usual routine and reporting documents from the participating countries of the Antarctic Treaty, requests from research stations monitoring weather and natural disasters. The first strange document came my way in 2014 when I was already fully settled into my role. I was entrusted with classified documents. It was a UN directive that called for enhanced control over all air and sea vessels approaching within 300 nautical miles of the Antarctic coast, without prior authorized permission to enter this restricted zone. I always believed that since Antarctica is an unclaimed territory officially recognized, any one of us could go there as if visiting our own homes. However, it turned out to be quite the opposite. It resembled a heavily guarded base or even a prison. I reviewed several files and discovered that the entire perimeter of Antarctica was unofficially guarded not only by UN international troops, but also through joint patrolling by naval vessels of the participating countries, according to their influence sectors and the locations of research stations along the coast. Even the airspace was completely closed. This prompted me to ask two questions for the first time. Why is Antarctica being guarded like this? And what valuable thing is being concealed? I directly asked my supervisor, with whom I had a good rapport. He candidly advised me not to bother with unnecessary questions. It's not our concern. Higher authorities will handle everything. It's their headache, not ours. Our job is to process documents and direct them as needed. The second document that made me ponder was a list of heads of states and top government officials who plan to visit Antarctica at various times. I initially thought they were there to see ice-covered mountains or penguins, but then I compared the dates of their visits with the election dates of presidents and prime ministers in their respective countries. They aligned perfectly. It gave the impression that they were making pilgrimages or seeking permission from someone before elections. Top figures from the Vatican and other Christian denominations also enjoyed visiting Antarctica. Even that Russian leader, Patriarch Kirill, paid a visit. Were they delivering sermons to penguins? Probably not. It seems they were also visiting someone whom asked that question of Hitler. After all, the Nazis also went there, presumably to negotiate with someone about something during World War II. I also came across peculiar requests for equipment for expeditions heading into the heart of the continent. In addition to the regular equipment and provisions used in polar zones, there were tents with air conditioners and lightweight gear intended for tropical environments, as well as medical kits with vaccinations against equatorial infections. The impression was created that the expedition traversed snowy lands of Antarctica and ventured somewhere much warmer. Several times, I came across topographic maps of the area of various scales in reports from Antarctica. These maps included not only the terrain relief, rivers, lakes, and even coastlines, but also marked populated areas. However, I couldn't comprehend where this territory was located, and the city names weren't present on Google. I remember one settlement name, Trofeo. At first, I thought the polar researchers were joking out of idleness, but all the maps had a classified stamp and were filed together in a common folder. It was intriguing to consider where these lands were situated, I asked myself, and I still don't have answers to that. You might think that the man is talking nonsense, making things up. I would have thought the same in your place. However, I held those documents in my hands, and now I have to live with that knowledge. Someday, I believe, all of this will be revealed, and we will learn the truth. They can't hide it from us forever. Already now, I see many leaks of information about Antarctica. Some say Antarctica is a ring, the edge around the flat Earth, while others claim that beyond it, there are other lands. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I only know what I saw with my own eyes in the UN documents. Once, as a joke, when I was still young, I asked to join an expedition deep into the continent. The response I received from the UN officials responsible for sending was that it's too early for me to stick my nose in there, and I'm not yet ready to see and accept whatever might be there, as not every psyche could handle it. This is where the excerpt from the text ends. But from this material, these videos and stories, there's enough to draw conclusions about why visiting Antarctica independently is not allowed and why it attracts special attention. If you liked this video, put your finger up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so as not to miss new interesting videos. Bye.